Good day everyone and welcome back to BFA501. In this video I'm going to give a brief introduction of a document flowchart diagram. A flowchart is a pictorial analytical technique used to describe some aspect of an information system in a clear, concise and logical manner. Flowcharts record how business processes are performed and how documents flow through the organization. Document flowcharts were developed to illustrate the flow of documents and data among areas of responsibility within an organization, showing where each document originates, its distribution, its purpose, its disposition, and everything that happens as it flows through the system. And these are some of core symbols in the flowchart diagram. But in this video, I'm going to focusing on the document flowchart. So some symbol that are really related with the document flowchart diagram are this one. This one is to represent a document, an electronic or a paper document or a report. And this kind of symbol is to represent the multiple copies of one paper document. So for example, if my process or my activity or if a certain process or certain activity is generating a same document with multiple copy, like for example in the case of receipt, because we will in the sales process we might produce receipt for both customer and also for our internal. So the document name is supposed to be the same, which is receipt, but there will be multiple copy. One copy for the customer, one copy to be kept for us, something like that. And then this one is to represent an electronic output, usually to represent the data which is shown on the screen. And the other symbol that we need to know is this one, the square symbol is to represent the computer processing. And this kind of symbol is to represent the manual operation. So this one is the operation or the process that handled by the computer, and this symbol to represent the process that handled automatically by the computing system. The other important symbol that we should know is this one. This cylinder symbol is to represent a database or a storage, an electronic storage which in this case is a database. Data stored electronically in a database. This one. An arrow will be used to uh, represent the flow of the document from one process to another process. And the other important symbol that we might gonna use is this symbol. This circle symbol is to represent on-page connector, and this kind of symbol is quite related with this one. This one is to represent off-page connector. I will explain the difference between on-page connector and off-page connector in the following example. This symbol is to represent terminal, which is to represent a beginning, an end, or a point of interruption in a process, also used to indicate an external party. And as we know from the business process diagram, the diamond symbol is to represent a decision making. So how is it differ from BPD? So what's the difference between document flow chart diagram and business process diagram? BPD or business process diagram focuses on the sequence of the process and the entity who is responsible for each of the activity within the process. However, on the other hand, document flowcharts focuses on the document, or in this case, is the data or information flowing between processes or flowing between activities. That's the difference. And let me show you the example from the textbook. This is the example from the textbook. This is to represent the payroll, and this section is to represent the account payable. Payroll and account payable, they both quite related, and there is a link that relate these two processes. Okay, this one is to represent a terminal, or usually to represent an external entity. So payroll and account payable is the internal entity. In this case, human resources and department is to represent the external entity or external party. The data or the document usually are initiated from the external party. So in this case, human resource will issue two documents in this case, or which are employee changes and new employee data. So there are a couple of documents generated from the human resource and which will be processed manually. This is the manual operation. The name of the operation is update employee slash payroll file, store form in a file. And from the departments, the document that been sent or that been produced is the time card. Okay, and this one is an example of the multiple copy of the document. So in this case, employee checks there is number one and number two. It means that there are a couple copies of employee check. The same case also happened with payroll register. In this case, payroll register there is number one and number two. It means that there are a couple or two copies of payroll register. They are both the same exact document but just have multiple copy. It's quite different than this one, the time card. The time card in this case is only a single document. Okay, the next symbol that I might need to explain to you is this symbol. This is the on-page connection, the on-page connector. So this one is this document, the text report document will flow to B. It means that it will connect with this point. So it means that this point will connect to this point or will relate to this point. As we can see here, this process will generate a couple of documents. Will generate a document which is text report and it has a couple copy. Text report 1 and text report 2, they both are exactly the same document, just a copy. And it will flow to B. B here is the text report. It means that one of the text report will be uh, forwarded to this kind of process. Okay, and this on-page connector is mainly be used to make a diagram more neater, because if we don't have this on-page connector, we have to draw a line or draw an arrow from this point to this point, which can be quite messy in a big and complex diagram. Okay, and then the next symbol that I have to explain to you is this one. This one is called the off-page connector. This one is to connect if we have a very big document flowchart diagram and it might consist more than one pages. It means that if you want to make a link from the process from one page to another page, we might gonna use this kind of symbol. I will show you in this case. This is the next page. This one means C. It means that this data came from C point. C point means from this point. And then this document, these two documents came from D point. So it means that this document came from this point. Okay. So basically it's uh, quite simple and it's similar with the business process diagram. We can make the diagram as simple as we want or as detailed and as complex as we want, which is mainly depend on the need itself. But keep in mind The main idea of this document is to communicate, to clarify, and to make everything clear about the flow of the document from one process to the another process. And I will show you another example of the use of um, document flowchart diagram for the case study of self-checkout. This is the self-checkout case study. So in this case, there will be two parts. The first one is the self-checkout terminal. There will be two entities, two internal entities, self-checkout terminal, and the manager. In self-checkout terminal, there are a couple of external entities, which are customer and bank. Look at from here. From customer will generate a couple of documents in this case. The first one is barcodes, and the second one is the payment info. Okay, barcode will go through the scan purchase item, and then the payment info will go to the payment. And from the scan purchase items, it will go to the amount due. Okay, and then from the payment, we'll generate a few documents which are receipt, card detail, and card details. And card detail will goes to the bank, and the bank will have an automated process which is process payment, and process payment will generate a document called response file, and the response file will fit the uh, payment process, feedback to payment process, and the data will be stored in the sales table. This one. Okay, and then next thing is this sales table will be used from the manager point of view to be processed through the statistical data analysis in order to have a nice sales report, which mainly to be able to support the further decision regarding the sales itself. The things that you need to keep in mind in the document flow diagram is a document cannot lead to another document. It has to go through a process. So for each process, the input for each process is a document, and the output of each process will be a document. So in document flowchart diagram, it is kind of impossible to have process followed by process. Okay, in BPD, that's what happened. An activity or a process followed by another activity or process. But in document flowchart diagram, a process have to be followed by a document. Okay, because this is talking about the flow of the document. Okay, not only the flow of the process, but the flow of the document, how the document move from one process to another process, and how the document transform from one form to another form through a process. Okay, I think that's all, guys, for my brief explanation about the introduction of the document flowchart diagram. In the next video, I will explain how to draw the document flowchart diagram using pencil. That's it. Good day and have a nice day.